it's Kathleen again with Cross Stitch Antiques, and I'm here to give you my year in review. It's December of 2022, and I have had a busy year. If you recall, last year I produced a Sampler a Month, the Antique Sampler of the Month series, and I promised myself I would never do that again. So it was one a month for 12 months. Well, just sitting here calculating what's all around me, in 2022, I also released 12 reproduction samplers. And that was not intentional to hit the number 12 again, but I knew I would be a busy girl this year, and I was very productive. Most of my releases this year, well, I would say maybe half, have not yet been released to the public, but they will be in the forthcoming 2023 because many of them were class pieces for either Celebration of Needlework or a special thing for Kitten Stitcher or something else that will be happening in 2023 that was rather an exclusive to the attic. So let me just get started and kind of start with the beginning of the year in January 2022. And the first thing I was working on back then was something for Celebration of Needlework. And they started an ornament of the month for the song, The 12 Days of Christmas. And I was given the month of February. So if you're familiar with my Ann Wilkinson chart or sampler, which I don't have right in front of me, I produced a little mini ornament, and it was called Two Turtle Doves, based on the second gift of Christmas, which is two turtle doves. So this is a motif from Ann Wilkinson. If you can see, there's Ann on the back, the antique, and my reproduction from 1834. And I chose a couple of the little birds who look like turtle doves to me. And here's the finished ornament. Two turtle doves. This will be releasing after February of 2023, which would be the full year. So it'll be available to the public then. And that was the first thing. So then along comes March. March, of course, is Nashville Market, when we designers attend and release a number of our charts. And because I was busy with other projects that were coming up for deadlines after March, I only released one sampler at March Nashville Market. But this is a sampler that counts for, I would say, 10 because it's the biggest sampler probably out there. Alice Clark, I had a father, kind and true. So I love this sampler. There's a number of people you might know stitching it on social media. Carol Saltbox Stitcher, I know. Others, so many others have started this. It has absolutely beautiful motifs, a beautiful verse that's over 2 threads, believe it or not. And this sampler is approximately 500 stitches by 500 stitches. And so you can see why I say it counts for at least 10, but it is the number 2 release I had. It's stitched on the model, which is still in the works because the cover of the chart has the antique. But here is my progress so far. Beautiful, beautiful reds and florals. And it's on 46 count Old Sheep by X Jude Designs with 103 silks. The chart itself looks like this. So you have something else new that I did this year in 2022 was go into the booklet format, which has been popular instead of the loose leaf inserts. And again, Alice Clark came out in March. While we're talking about Alice Clark, I also did a couple of smalls based on Alice Clark for what we call round robins. I did Needlework Galleria in September. I know we're jumping ahead, but since we're talking about Alice, this was a small that I did for a round robin, and it's based on that rose in the upper left-hand corner of Alice Clark, and this is called Alice's Rose, 1844. This is another one of those special little projects, one of the smalls that hasn't been released to the public, but will be after September of 2023, which would be a year out from its first purpose at the Round Robins at Needlework Galleria, which is held in St. Charles, Missouri. Okay, so that was March, and then along comes May. In May, I was invited for the first time to attend the Nashua, New Hampshire show. It's a retail show. It's open to the public, and it's put on every year by Celebration of Needlework, who is the longest running organization that has held shows, I think almost 35 to 40 years now, run very professionally by Pam Reed and her daughters, both Kelly and her daughter too, who's now gone on to full-time employment elsewhere, but her name was Tammy, and I thank them both for inviting me. So my project at that event was a portion of the Band of Roses sampler. So the Band of Roses sampler, as you might recall, was one of my very first antique reproduction releases, and here's a picture of Band of Roses. This came out in 2017. Like I said, my first reproduction sampler that was released then. And what it is the lower left-hand corner of the Band of Roses. And it's the beautiful chapel that looks like a 1800 style New England chapel with a portion of the roses on top. This is stitched in the beautiful Brea by Needle and Flax. Thank you, Rachel Miller. And it's using the DMC threads, which are called for on the Band of Roses sampler itself. This was a special teaching project. Again, in May, it will be released in May of 2023, and it's called New England Chapel. It's designed to fit onto this beautiful box, and here is the actual model. This box is called a Bible box or a book box, and it's handmade by the great people over at Celebration of Needlework by Kelly Rivers' husband, and she is Pam Reed's daughter, and her husband are also helping Pam out with production of these boxes. These are available when you purchase the chart. You can get these custom made, or any other products through Colonial Designs out in the East Coast. So that was a beautiful project. Then, all this time I've been working on something else very special. Last Christmas, I was gifted a Bristol sampler about a year ago, and my husband gave it to me for Christmas, and I was just thrilled and delighted. It's something that I've always wanted to own, is a beautiful Bristol sampler from the Bristol Orphanage in England. So while I was doing all this, I was also reproducing Amelia Fox, which is a beautiful Bristol Orphanage sampler. And here she is. Now, Amelia Fox is also one that has not yet been released to the public, but in June of 2022, it was available only for the month of June as an exclusive at the Attic Needlework in Arizona, along with the two companion pieces, which are Orphan Annie, which is an original design of mine based on motifs from the Bristol, and this is the actual model we have here using that same box from Colonial Designs. Beautiful project. This chart was available exclusively at the attic as well as the Bristol. But there is happy news, which I'll share with you in a moment. The third companion piece to the Bristol is Annie Matilda Moss. Annie Matilda Moss uses many motifs that are very similar to that Bristol I was charting. And as I was charting Amelia Fox, the Bristol, I noticed on Annie so many of the same motifs. And here's the actual antique. You can see how vibrant this is. Annie Matilda Moss is not a Bristol. She is a sampler made by a young girl at a school that she attended during the day and lived at home with her parents. And this one was made at the Daglingworth School in England, only about 40 miles away from Bristol. So they are connected, and the reason they are connected is because of something we have here, which is called the Bristol Pattern Page, a booklet I've also produced for the special event I'm going to tell you about momentarily. And this, you'll see, has motifs on it which are captured both on the Bristol and on Annie Matilda Moss because of the widespread use of these pattern booklets. They were very small, 2 inches perhaps by 2.5 inches, where many alphabets and borders and motifs and animals and churches and crosses and all kinds of things could be used as patterns by the stitcher. And that's how the Bristol orphanages, the little girls used those pattern booklets, or they used copies that the head embroiderers, the people that were teaching these girls how to do the Bristols, used, and they would copy from their samplers. So these patterns were very common and widespread in usage, and there we have the link is the pattern booklet. Now these 4 booklets that I just mentioned all were released in June for the attic. But the good news is they will be released again in June of 2023 at another very special event I'm honored to be teaching at, which is Hobby House Needlework's Bristol weekend, the last weekend of June, June 23rd and 24th of 2023. So if you attend that event, which will be open to registration very soon, I believe in early January, I'd be more than thrilled to meet you, and you will also be able to obtain all 4 of these charts, and all kinds of other fun things will be happening that weekend. So those are the only ways you can get the Bristols, but you can see that makes at least 8, I think, that we're at now in terms of what I've been working on this year. All right, so what's next? So that was June, and then we have July and August, and at the end of August, we have something special that happened again this year called Needlework Expo. Needlework Expo is an online event that's available to shop owners to attend, just like they would be in Nashville, but it's all done virtually. So for the event in August, I actually reproduced 4 samplers. So here we make the 8, and then we have 9, 10, 11, and 12, and that makes our 12, but there is one more I'm going to tell you about as well. But first of all, let's go through these. This was August, and we had Phyllis Crew, 1890, and here we have Phyllis. Let me show you her antique. This is a beautiful Victorian sampler. 1890, you can see at the bottom, very pastel, pinks, purples, greens, just a lovely sampler. And this one is stitched on parchment or any kind of off-white linen. and it's charted for NPI and DMC as well. The next one I produced was a lovely antique sampler called On Love, which is the reproduction of Elizabeth Topham's sampler from 1838. And this one I personalized as a wedding gift for my daughter Fiona, who got married in October. So I stitched the model in August and September, and I'll have to admit in October as well, but completed it and got it framed as a gift from me to her and her husband on October 22nd. It does allow personalization above this part right here, so if you'd like to use that, there is a chart available for you to personalize it also as a wedding gift. Then we have the third one that came out in August at Expo, which is called When House and Land Is Gone, Elizabeth Smith, 1850. This is a charming small sampler, and it is on vintage exemplar by Lakeside Linen with NPI, and the DMC is provided as a conversion. And let me show you the antique we have right here. Again, not framed yet, but this is your actual antique. Beautiful sampler, very simple with a wonderful message. Really pretty floral swag, I'd like to call it, at the bottom there. This is all over 2, and it's a quick stitch. Then the fourth one that was released at Needlework Expo in September is a really unique piece, and it's actually a reproduction of the 2 small cross-stitch samplers found in Ellen Kingscote's English sewing book, which contained the projects that she was working on as lessons as she learned various techniques of sewing in the year approximately 1840 in England. So we have evidence of her darning, her knitting, all kinds of other buttonhole stitching, various things a young girl of that time needed to know. And let me show you Ellen Kingscote's sewing book, which is so very fragile. It's actually tissue paper, what I would call tissue paper. I'm not sure what they called it back then. And we're going to open it up and see. Hopefully things won't fall out. But there you have one of the cross-stitch samplers that was reproduced by me on that page. And the second one is right here. And they're called Wisdom and Honor, based on the mottos on those little mini samplers. So you get both samplers in the chart, and those are available and for you to purchase at this time. They're available as of August. And I forgot to show you the antique of On Love, which is so beautiful. All reds. There's actually mostly one color red. There's a slightly different shade of red for all the numbers and the date. And then there's a black eye on the bird and a little bit of greenery in the bird's mouth. So wanted to share with you too that I have kits available on my website for most of my projects, limited quantity, and you can find all of these that have been released to the public with kits, if I still have the supplies left, on my website at www.crossstitchantiques.com. So you can buy all the charts, of course, but the kits, like I said, are limited in quantity. Okay, so I have 2 more things to tell you about. These are 2 projects that I did. One was for, again, Celebration of Needlework, and it was recently held in October on Cape Cod. This project was in the works like during COVID. The event was postponed at least once, but we were finally able to have the event, and it was just delightful to be with the Celebration of Needlework ladies for their fall stitching retreat on Cape Cod. And the project we worked on, and again, it's not yet released to the public, but it's a very unique sampler, and it's called the Seashell Sampler. This is the antique. You can see it has the beautiful verse, Jesus Permit. Up at the top, these are long satin stitch flowers. The verse is all over 2. And then at the bottom, we have a beautiful conch shell and several other types of shells, and a little border around the top. Now again, the top and the bottom were all done in satin stitch. The rest of it is all done in counted cross stitch. So I adapted the entire sampler to cross stitch for the class and for my reproduction, which looks like this. So this entire chart now is available to work on completely in cross stitch over 2, and it turned out beautifully, if I say so myself. I love this. Shells I found out in my research, which is included in your chart when you're able to get this, is shells are extremely symbolic. They've been around, ever since God's creation. And they're significant to many different religions and signify different things in different religions. And there's a lot of beautiful, interesting facts about the shells and how they became so meaningful over the period of various peoples, from the very early times, as they were used to sound warnings, because they didn't have any other types of handmade items to use, but they would be able to blow into these shells. They were also used as a musical instrument. Over time they came to be symbolizing eternal life, pilgrimage. There's just a whole lot of interesting information included in the research for this reproduction. The original is called Jane Price, 1817, or the Seashell Sampler. Now, since this was just a class this past October, it will not be released until October of 2023. But then again, you have something to look forward to for all of you people who might live near the ocean or wish you lived near the ocean. If you have a beach house or wish you had a beach house, it would be a lovely sampler to stitch up with the seashells. Now, last but not least, one moment. I'm sure you're familiar with the antique reproduction box that Kitten Stitcher, Teresa Vanette, put out in November. So here we are, we're already in November. And I was honored to be asked to participate in that about a year ago. And I looked at one of my samplers, and this is Kitten Stitcher. And I tried to find something that Teresa herself would like, knowing how much she loves kitties and cats. This is called In Memory of Louise. This is the antique, and look what's at the bottom. One cat there, and one cat there. And beautiful, beautiful border of roses. You have a deer on the top right and a deer on the top left. A swan, a beautiful bird spreading its wings in the center, and lovely, lovely florals. What a gorgeous sampler. This is a Berlin woolwork sampler, and the motifs are just so colorful. That's the original. To this day, extremely colorful. Now, what I did was I reproduced this sampler on 40 count Lakeside Linen sand dune using 103 silks. And the model turned out very beautiful. I just showed you that was the antique, and here is my completed model. I'm very proud of this one as well. I know you shouldn't be too prideful, but it's so amazing to reproduce samplers and then to stitch them yourself. It's like they're coming alive in your hand. I'm sure you understand what I mean when I say I'm proud of it, just because it was very meticulous work. There's a lot of detail, a lot of color changes, and I just love these 103 silks and the way they truly just bring it to life. So now the antique, the words are actually in German, and they were kind of ghosting out on the antique, so I replaced them with red. The words translated mean in memory of, and the woman's name, or the young girl, Louise Tegan, 1874. So now you can see it really pops. There is personalization provided so that you can incorporate someone you would like to remember or someone you're going to give this as a gift to. So there's lots of possibilities, and it's called In Memory of Louise, 1874. So Kitten Stitcher still has some of these antique sampler box items on her website. I believe she has a few left if you'd like to purchase this product. You have to get it in that bundle of the other 12, and it will not be available for sale to the public for a year until November of 2023. All right, so that was a lot. Altogether, it was 12 or 13, and I went through my whole year in 26 minutes. So I've been a busy woman, and I continue to be, because I have some wonderful things happening already in 2023. Besides the release of all these great samplers, I've also been acquiring something that has been really appealing to me for several years. I've been acquiring some Quaker samplers. The Attic Needlework is hosting their January Sampler Symposium, and I'm honored to be one of the teachers there in mid-January. And I'm introducing 2 of my private collection of Quaker antique samplers. I believe I'm up to a total of 8 now. That event is sold out, but these samplers that I will be releasing as the years go forward are so meaningful to me. I've been a lover of the antique Quaker samplers for some time. I've done a lot of reading and research on them, and I am honored to say I actually have in my possession now a Quaker from the Westtown School in Chester County, Pennsylvania, which I will be reproducing for an event in June at Victorian Rose Needle Arts in Gainesville. And there's another lovely antique Quaker sampler as a second project for that event. In addition, for this Christmas 2022, my husband has also gifted me with another beautiful sampler, which I'm just going to grab. And this is my Christmas gift this year. We're in December. This has not yet been charted, but I know I will be charting it and releasing it. And it's an Ackworth Quaker sampler. Just stunning. There's some water damage and bleeding on the red down there, but it doesn't take away, in my eyes whatsoever, from the glory of this amazing Quaker medallion polychrome sampler. So look forward to this sometime in 2023 as either part of a shops event or to the general public. And while we're at it, let me show you the Westtown sampler. This is the Westtown Quaker sampler, which will be released this year sometime as well. Absolutely stunningly beautiful. And I could show you all the rest, but we would be here for another half an hour, and I'd like to keep some under wraps as a special surprise for those attending the upcoming 2023 events, as well as for your own shopping enjoyment when you are able to purchase these, as they will be reproduced given the time I might have and availability. I like to keep busy. Those of you who stitch also like to keep busy, and I am just very thrilled to have acquired some Quakers at this time, which I'm so interested in reproducing and sharing with all of you. But in the meantime, let's embrace the true reason for the season that we're in. We're in the Christmas season, and then soon we'll be giving way to a brand new year with lots of hope for new beginnings and new possibilities and good health to all. So those are my wishes and prayers for your holiday season this year, that you may have a blessed Christmas time with your families and a lovely, healthful, joy-filled year in 2023. And I want to thank you again from the bottom of my heart for all of your support, and from my home to yours, and from my stitching room to your stitching room. May God keep you in the palm of his hands until we meet again. Merry Christmas. God bless you.